GTM Podcast The Great Master Episode 18. Hello everyone. You are listening to GTM Podcast The Great Master Series. We hope you enjoy learning historical background of the middle way or Dhammakaya meditation so far. From the previous episode, we learned of how our great master has managed and organized his temple from small into one of the important temples of Thailand. Now in this episode, we continue of his management style, how he managed them that attract so many people come to study and learn under his guidance. For those who has not yet listened to the previous episode yet, we suggest you go back to listen to them first for more understanding and enjoyable story as it goes along. Now one more thing before we begin. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share to continue support our program. If you like to contribute and support our program, please let us know. Now let us begin with this episode. Management style. Although Luang Pu has never undergone any training in management, his management skills were second to none. He used the Dhamma of the Buddha as his guide in managing people, and he practiced what he preached. Luang Pu's management style was one of a father to his children. He applied Brahma Vihara, or the four divine states of mind, consisting of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity in managing his temple residents. He gave everyone genuine love and equal treatment as if they were his own sons and daughters. He worked hard for their welfare, making sure all of them were well provided for. He shared everything he had with them so that they could live happily, just like they were still living at home with their parents. He gave them plenty of love and care, but when it came to discipline and behavior, he was quite strict. One of the most challenging aspects in temple management is to make sure that every temple resident follow his or her appropriate precepts. Precepts are code of moral conduct practiced by all Buddhists. Buddhist precepts are divided into two groups, one for householders and one for monastics. The aim for monastic practice is to overcome the weakness in one's character and to eradicate defilements. The lifestyle of an ordained monk is one that requires intense discipline, willpower, and perseverance in order to achieve the ultimate goal of the reverence. The purpose of monastic discipline are to establish good moral foundation for ordained monks, provide harmony and happiness for the monastic community, gain faith and confidence of the public, and preserve the longevity of Buddhism. The core practice for all Buddhist householders' moral conduct is the 5 precepts. For more detail, you can listen to our podcast on Blessing 9. For some Buddhists who wish to intensify self-purification, they practice the 8 precepts, the expansion of the 5 precepts. The goal is for cleansing the defiled mind, resulting in inner calm and joy. Nuns and resident lay people follow the 8 precepts. A novice monk practices the 10 precepts. A fully ordained Buddhist monk follows an intensive set of discipline known as the 227 precepts, which are to be kept on a daily basis. Buddhist monks are expected to lead a life of perfect purity, setting good examples for all Buddhists. A monk's behavior is a reflection of his temple and the religion. Luang Pu made sure that all the monks at his temple follow the monastic disciplines rigorously, and all temple residents live by the temple rules. This was no easy task, as the number of people residents grew bigger by the day. He divided management responsibility into 3 areas: one for academic studies, one for the welfare of monks, novice monks, temple attendants, and one for the welfare of nuns. He saw that the most important virtue needed in the monastic community was unity and orderliness. He emphasized adherence to a daily routine as the basis of harmony in the temple community, whether it was daily chanting, listening to sermons, or sitting in meditation. He taught that community spirit brings happiness and prevents infighting, disharmony, and serious problems in the community. Every fortnight, Luang Pu made sure that the head shaving of the monks, novice monks, and nuns was performed all the same day. He told them, if the heads cannot be in unity, how can the minds? Even though Luang Pu devoted the majority of his time to teaching and spreading the Dhammakaya knowledge, he still took his responsibilities for governing the monastic community very seriously. He would walk around the temple every night, checking on the behavior and well-being of the community. Intruders were often found on temple grounds, especially during rainy nights. He said there were only 2 sorts of people who liked this kind of weather at night: thieves and adulterers. He would go out to check on the behavior of the monks, novices, nuns, and others in his care to see if anyone had gone out on midnight escapades, or, conversely, if anyone had been particularly diligent in their Pali studies. Luang Pu would check all the dormitories where the monks and novices stay. If he saw light coming from a room and heard the sound of scripture repeated aloud, he would be immensely pleased. He would call that monk to meet him and would inquire about his well-being and give him special support in his studies. Some years, when an especially large number of students succeed in their studies, he would organize a ceremony of congratulations, present the monks with new robes, and announce the name of the successful monks in front of the congregation, so that the temple supporters could share in the congratulations. If he saw light coming from a room, accompanied by the sound of conversation, he would knock on the door and warn the monk to turn off his light. Everyone knew that Luang Pu was meticulous about the saving of electricity and water in the temple. He would turn off the master switch during daylight hours so that no one wastes electricity unnecessarily. Luang Pu continually found new ways of checking the temple at night so that no one could predict his routine. Some nights, Luang Pu would go for his rounds wearing nothing more than his angsa, or inner robe that the monk usually wear, and would stand on watch in the shadows with a light stick of incense, the glowing end of which looked like a cigarette. No one would pay this monk any attention, for they knew that Luang Pu would be fully robed whenever outside his kuti, and he never smoked. At one point, There was a group of novices who regularly left the temple at night to go watch a movie. The leader of this group also smoked cigarettes. One night, he forgot his lighter as he and his group were leaving the temple. He saw a glowing light in the dark and thought a monk was there to sneak a cigarette. So he went toward the glow to light his cigarette. There, he came face to face with Luang Pu, who was carrying a cane in one hand. The novice turned white. Luang Pu told him to fetch all his friends to confront him. He told the novices he would not punish them if they would confess their misbehaviors and promise not to do it again and to study hard. They all promised. From that night on, the leader of the group was a transformed youth. He practiced meditation so diligently that he was finally able to attain Dhammakaya. Once he caught a novice smearing himself with white powder and asked him why he did so. The novice monk answered that he applied the powder in order to treat his acne. Luang Pu told the novice never to use cosmetic in the manner of a householder again, as this was in violation of the monastic rules for novice monks, the 10 precepts. For other slackers, the distant scent of incense from upwind at night was enough to tell them that their laxity had been discovered by Luang Pu on his rounds. Another night, Luang Pu passed the nuns' dormitory. One of the nuns had invited a friend to stay overnight in her room to study the precepts. Luang Pu saw that it was already late, but the light in the nun's room was still on. Luang Pu looked through the window and saw the nun trying on her friend's brows in front of the mirror and laughing. Luang Pu picked up a rock and threw it in the window, followed by 2 more. The nun trying the blouse came running out of the building, but could not see anyone, so she shouted, "You can't get away with throwing these things at me when I have done nothing wrong. Just you wait till I tell Luang Pu." The next morning, the nun went to tell Luang Pu. Luang Pu asked casually what the nun was doing at the time and why she had not put off the light and gone to bed. The nun beat around the bush. Luang Pu continued with his questioning and eventually disclosed that he had thrown the rocks himself. He taught her that she should never behave like a householder because sensuality would cause the mind to wander and her meditation would suffer. He taught all his disciples who had renounced the home life to be careful of slipping back into their own habits, or their vows would have been in vain. He said, "The world is full of undesirable things. If Dhamma is straight for worldly concern, nothing will be left but eating, sleeping, and partying. If any quarrels arouse in the community, he would find out which monks were at the heart of the quarrel and would summon them. He would never ask what the quarrel was about, but simply the question, 'Can both of you forgive each other?' If both of them could get over the quarrel and forgive one another, they would be allowed to stay. If not, they would be asked to leave." He taught his disciples to be content with whatever they own, to avoid attachment to food, clothing, shelter, and medicine donated for their use. Luang Pu was widely admired for his strictness about the handling of money. Even those funds that had been donated to him for personal use, every last money was turned over to his trust attendant. Although he had elegant and expensive buildings constructed for the Palace Institute and for meditation, he never built anything extravagant for his personal use. His own kuti was a simple wooden construction. Even this, he shared with another monk. Someone once asked him why he never built anything for himself. He replied, "I am already happy with what I have. Why not give happiness to others as well?" Luang Pu was compassionate but would not tolerate a person's lies. He said that a person who lies is one devoid of goodness. In spite of his strictness, Luang Pu was loved and rewarded by everyone around him. Under the leadership of Luang Pu, Wat Pak Nam grew from a desolate, disheveled, disorderly temple to become one of the most well-organized, well-disciplined, well-respected temples in Thailand. It also produced the greatest number of Buddhist scholars and meditation masters in the country. Today, Wat Pak Nam remains one of the most venerated temples in Thailand. And this is how our great master managed and win the heart of many people who come study under his wing. We will continue his story again in the next enjoyable part, which I recommend everyone to come listen as well, which are about the miracles and supernatural phenomena that happened during the time of our great master. These are just only some of the miracle stories that happened during his time. So stay tuned, don't miss any episode.